Namaste.
Yeah. Namaste, sir. Namaste.
Namaste, sir. Namaste.
So, today we have sharing of Lopen Lungtaen ji in English and Ashutosh Kansal ji in Hindi. And Lopen Lungtaen ji has joined. So, I would request to Lopen Lungtaen ji to kindly share his sharing about exercise 1 and 2. And before that, I would like to request to Ganesh sir to kindly introduce a little bit about Lopen Lungtaen ji to all participants.
Yeah. So, Lopen Lungtaen is a Buddhist monk and very well known as a Buddhist scholar all over the world. He is also looking after the responsibility of the director of College of Language and Cultural Studies. This is one of the 11 colleges in Bhutan under the Royal University of Bhutan, and he is also the Pro Vice Chancellor of the Royal University of Bhutan. Very well-known scholar, as I said, but very very open and very willing to learn. So, despite being so much respected and being exposed to such wide ocean of knowledge all over the tradition, he still has this humility to learn anything new that he finds around. So when we first met in 2012, since then he has been very seriously and sincerely trying to investigate into this EHV and he's trying to implement it in his own college, in the university, in different institutions of Bhutan, and anywhere he goes. Okay. So he's trying to make it a part of his presentation. Last 1 year, when we started this session from 6th of June, he has been very sincerely working on it. As he says, he has not missed even one single session throughout the year, despite lot of problem of connectivity and his travel. And quite seriously into it, you must have noticed this when there is any interaction with him during the session. So very sincere seeker and a real monk in the real sense, is trying to find out the truth for himself and for everybody. So that's a very small introduction about him. With that, I will request him to share his experience with a view that it will be very inspiring for every one of us. Yes, Lopen.
Namaskar, Ganesh ji, and greetings from Bhutan to each and every participant in this morning session. Well, the past, many months, since last year, around this time onwards, I think these morning sessions, for me particularly, and I think it is true for the rest of the participants as well, that these morning sessions have been a retreat experience for me. Every morning 2+ hours or so, and for the last many months. It comes around full time equivalent to 3 months of retreat, which I consider this, in my life, a very important, chapter. Um, and uh, in this 1 year, if I, look back, I find so much change has taken place in me, and I'm sure this would be the experience of each and every one of us, who are consistently making an effort to attend this, morning session. Uh, well, people, there are people who have been in association with the UHB. Um, my, I may, please let me know if my connectivity, if there is a problem with my connectivity, because I don't normally know whether, my voice is heard across or not. Um, but usually
This,
these days, the connectivity has been good. Am I audible, Ganeshji?
yeah, it is perfectly okay.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
So for me, many of us have the experience of having associated with the UHP, for many years, and I'm sure most of the participants here seem to have been, in contact with UHP for many years, and now that, through this morning section and particularly these two exercises, time and again, 2 times. Um, by now, we all know that our self is more important, our imagination is more important, our desire, our feeling, and our thought is more important. And we are very clear now that happiness is a natural state of being and not influenced from outside. And our worldview, um, is that our continuous happiness is within. Continuous happiness can happen only through right understanding and right feelings, through wisdom, love, and compassion. Buddhism categorically emphasizes that it is only through wisdom, love, and compassion that we will be able to attain enlightenment. So, in Buddhism, also, ultimately, without wisdom, without this unison of love and, wisdom and love and compassion, in this enlightenment is not possible. So in Buddhism, to begin with, Buddha said, it's only through wisdom and through love and compassion enlightenment is possible. So there is no room for belief. There is no room for just blind faith, but it has to be experienced on the basis of first person inquiry. So as I said, the last 365 days have been really, um, you know, we can say this as golden days for me especially, and it is. I'm sure it is also true for many of the participants. Together, we met these morning sessions, like what you call in Hindi satsang. This online satsang. This was more of a satsang, a spiritual journey, which helped us guide our whole day with, being mindful and being aware, every morning. So, in that light, our morning sessions have been most fruitful and fulfilling part of the entire year. And the highlight of the morning sessions has been this, exercises 1 and 2, which are really, I found it amazingly very useful. And then, because it is important, because the participants found this one very handy, very practical, very intelligible, very, doable. And each time, we explore, it brings us tremendous amount of clarity and sharpness to our observation, of the self by the self. And that's why I think, Ganeshji took the burden of taking us through these two exercises twice. And these two, exercises for two times really gave us that grounding to, to observe ourselves by ourselves. So today we understand that the exercise, if we really look at it holistically, my personal feel is that exercise one is for, personal transformation. As Buddhism says, uh, there are two activities, of an individual. One activity is that responsibility to transform oneself. And I particularly see that this exercise one is for personal transformation, and exercise two for service, for interaction, for interfacing with the world outside. So in Buddhism, these two things are mentioned, that there are two responsibilities. One is that we need to purify ourselves, transform ourselves, um, and then number two is only when we are fully transformed, then we can be of true service to the world outside. So exercise one is for transformation, exercise two for interfacing with the world, or interacting with the world, or engaging with the world outside. So I, I think somebody has this mic on. I can hear some disturbance. Mm, okay, now it's fine. Yeah. Am I audible, Ganeshji?
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Okay, okay. So now, this, if we, for me, these two exercises, I mean, the highlight, or the, the, uh, you know, uh, the main, feature of the morning session has been these two, exercises, one and two. And in exercise one, step one, this is, uh, in fact, talked a lot in almost all the traditions that I know of. It is something that, we have to keep working, even we go through all the rest of the 7 steps. We have to come back to step one, because rest of the steps are dependent upon step one. Um, it is a very, important to, it is the most essential practice, and, a very important step, in every tradition, because awareness, or being aware every moment, is what has been the primary goal, or the primary pursuit in most of the traditions, be it for transformation, for realization, or in our terms, accessing our peer observer. For that, this being aware, being, observing the self and being aware of it is very important. So the self-observing the self is the prime practice of many traditions. And in Buddhism, the mind training in the Mahayana tradition, especially in the Mahayana and Vajrayana tradition, if you look at it, almost all the teaching ultimately revolves around, about this observation of the self by the self. It's only this, of course, there are so many other methods and, technicalities involved, but the essence is that it's all the time trying to understand the self by direct observation of the self. And this is what happens in Buddhism, also in other traditions also. People spend years in the retreat. And the content of the retreat, if you look at it, it's all about trying to understand the self through direct observation. In exercise one, step one, we are trying to observe the self by the self. And when we observe the self by the self, we are trying to see the self directly without involving, our sensations, which is the case with many of us who have no idea about self-observation, that we always try to look and understand the self only through our sense perceptions, or in other words, through the sensations. And, how do I observe myself directly? By observing the imagination that is going on in the self. Through direct observation, we are basically trying to see, our imagination, the desire, the feeling that is going on, the thought and expectation that is going on. And we are just, trying to be aware of it, just being mindful of it. And we are not reacting. That is, we are not trying to, change the imagination, whether it's a right kind of imagination, wrong imagination, whether we like it, don't like it. We are not trying to change it. I'm not trying to remove it, or I'm not trying to have the continuity of it, but I'm just observing, being aware of it. So this is there in every every tradition, almost every tradition. But the beauty in UHP, through what Ganeshji has been sharing with us, are these 7 steps, which has been meticulously, systematically, arranged in a way that it makes us get a better grip of the observation of the self, which is really, I found this, if you look at the traditions, yes, observing the self by the self is there, but it is not explained in this systematic manner, arranged and categorically, organized in this manner. So these 7 steps, I find it really an eye-opening. Today, people think spirituality, religion, tradition are beyond our reach, beyond our capacity. But as it is said in different traditions, it is never beyond our reach. We have that innate capacity inherent in us. And the only thing is that we need to take a decision that I would like to pay attention, observe myself. I would like to know my self. I would like to understand myself. So that capacity is there. So as Ganeshji always says, that the step 1, exercise 1, step 1, it is simple because we have the capacity to observe, which is very true. In Buddhism, we talk about emptiness. We talk about non-duality. We talk about the pure conscience, the pure observer, which is said that it is beyond words and beyond imagination, beyond the realm of thoughts. But then, how do we know it? It says you just have to pay attention to it. And if we pay attention to it, we are definitely going to see it, observe, and understand. Because, as I said, the capacity to see and understand is always there. And as we as human beings, there is a need to see and to understand. There is an urge to understand. So that capacity is there, that urge is there, and especially this, morning session participants, I can see tremendous amount of, enthusiasm and commitment and, uh, curiosity to know about ourselves. So that makes, this step one very simple. Because it's there inherent, that capacity is there, and we don't have to create the imagination, the thought, the desire, the expectation. They are already going on in the self continuously, and in that sense it is true that it is easy. The only thing is we have to take a decision that I want to divert my effort and energy, pay attention to myself and understand it. So that element, that decision is the only requirement. And step one is also important. It is important in the sense that this imagination that is going in me, the feeling, the thought, is actually the source of my happiness or unhappiness. Rather my, source of my continuous happiness or unhappiness. Most of us, who are not associated with, self-exploration, we always, our worldview is that our happiness is outside, and therefore we pursue it outside, and as a result we become out and out materialistic. But when we know that my imagination that is going in me, the feeling, the thought, is actually the source of my happiness or unhappiness. So if I have a feeling at this moment which is natural, which is naturally acceptable to me, we are able to now, as participants of this morning session, and otherwise also who have been, exploring, into oneself, we are able to see that we are in a state of harmony and happiness only when we have a natural feeling. And if I have a feeling at this moment which is not natural, we are all now very clear that a feeling which is not natural acceptable to us, we are not in a state of, we are in a, if a feeling is not natural acceptable, we are in a state of unhappiness and contradiction within. I think this, this itself, I think, is a huge transformation or a paradigm shift in our worldview, because this shift charts out, our, the way forward. And therefore, we are aware that, we have to be, that we have to be mindful, we have to be aware of our imagination every moment, because, our imagination, my imagination, my feeling, my thought at this moment decides whether I am in a state of happiness or unhappiness at this very moment. And these two exercises have made us see at the experiential level how important is this, being aware every moment, is in the context of, our own well-being. So we have been able to see that our imagination is important, because that decides, our state of happiness, unhappiness. Therefore, it is of paramount importance to observe our imagination. And then, in step one, what we are doing is we are trying to just observe, our imagination. We are not trying to drag our attention to, imagination if it goes away, but we are just observing and paying attention. And if we are, aware of it, if we are observing it every moment, then when the attention diverts to somewhere else, I'm able to observe that. I can observe, where my attention has gone. Upon self-reflection, I see that my attention goes to whatever I consider to be important at that moment of time. And when I have, strongly decided to pay attention to my imaginations, when, I have decided to be, observant, then what happens is that we are aware that the mind has wandered away. So now, in step one, we are just doing that. But what happens is the fact that we know that the self has, this imagination has wandered away, it automatically, comes back without any effort. So when my attention returns to my imagination, again, I keep, observing it. So in other words, what, this step one, although we have, really broken down this self-observation, this observation of the self by the self into 7 steps, but when we really focus and pay attention to it, we see that all the 7 steps are subsumed into the step one. If we are very clear with step one, that we are aware every moment, all the time, paying attention, direct observation, we see the rest of it happens. Of course, in exercise, in the exercise morning sessions, because our focus, our attention on the self is not very, definite. Therefore, we have to really think in terms of these 7 details. But once we are into it, then, what I see is if we master this, step one, then the rest we, are by default or by, by nature or by, automatically it happens. Because when you are paying attention to, to your self directly, then we are able to see our imagination, our feelings particularly. And when we look at our feelings, then we are able to see whether, that feeling is automatically, because by design, we want to be happy and, prosperous. That is at the back of our mind. That is well, well programmed, into our, self, that I want to be happy. So when you are paying attention to the self, that, programmed, this expectation, uh, we are able to see whether a particular feeling is naturally acceptable to me or not. Of course, we break this 7 steps, into, 7 different parts. But once we are paying attention to, our own self, direct observation, then, it automatically comes out that whether, a particular feeling is naturally acceptable or not acceptable. And it doesn't end there, because we become comfortable, we become harmonious, we become happy only when we have a natural feeling that is, acceptable to us. So automatically this, in step 2, uh, uh, whether we are able to see that the feeling is acceptable to me or not. And in step 3, then, if I have a natural feeling, then it leads to my, happiness. And if I have an unnatural, a feeling that is not naturally acceptable to me, unhappiness, is there. And therefore, because we aspire for continuous happiness, so whenever there is unhappiness because of a particular feeling, and when we are able to observe that feeling, it's like darkness, it's like similar to light and darkness. When you switch on the light, darkness dispels. Why? Because this uh, darkness is not uh, you know, existent by its own nature. It's simply because of the absence of light, there is darkness. So because these sanskars and our negativities, our unnatural feelings are just our creation, because we have not understood happiness as a natural state of mind. So when we are observant, when we pay attention to the self, we see that whatever is not natural gets dispelled automatically. You don't have to do anything. So that's what, even in Buddhism, the ultimate instruction, pit instruction, is that we have to pay attention to the self directly. And when you pay attention to the self directly, then these afflictive emotions, hatred, anger, jealousy, animosity, because they do not exist by nature, they are not inherent in the self by nature. They are accumulations, they are sanskars, they are accumulations from outside, which do not have their own existence in the self. Therefore, seeing the self itself will dispel the um, uh, the negativities, and as a result, these unnatural feelings get dispelled, and as a result, only natural feelings remain there. So as we keep on observing the self, the more we observe the self, then what happens is only natural feelings tend to be there in the self. So through these 7 steps, uh, it has been really useful for me. I um, uh, this I'm able to now, as a result, that turning in is not at all a struggle. Very easily I'm able to turn myself in. Now I'm enjoying observing myself consciously. I can now spend hours without realizing how time passes by. um, I'm able to spend most of my time observing my imagination, and then the frequency is improving each day. When I'm observing the self, what I have realized is that now reactions are on the decline. Uh, what situations and conditions to which I used to react, most of those situations and conditions do not qualify for me to react. So in that sense, my life has become much more easier, natural, and I've been able to now understand the other person better, because I have started understanding myself better. So there is a lot improvement in my day-to-day life, in my interface with my people around, with my colleagues, with my students, with everybody. I see that now I'm consciously operating from this mindfulness and aware state of mind. So I'm able to ensure naturally acceptable feelings and thoughts. I can see my anger and reaction, as I said, has reduced very significantly. And the sense of joy and satisfaction that I get from not reacting, as I said, from situations where I used to react before, it's tremendous. I celebrate myself whenever I succeed in not reacting to unpleasant situations outside. And really, this, I think, is a huge achievement. Earlier, I used to, react from within in incidents and situations where things were not my way. But today, because of this exploration and because of UHV and because of Ganeshji, the last, 10 years or so has been a really eye-opening experience for me. Um, uh, I have become relatively more sensitive to ensuring feeling of relationship with others. I'm becoming mindful and conscious of my feelings, thoughts, especially when I interface with other people. I have become clear now that with unnatural, feelings, I am the first victim. It is only me who is being hurt by my own unnatural feelings. There is no invasion from outside. It's my creation. It's my, creation of unnatural feelings. I have no doubt that I am the culprit, and there are, problems in me, and I need to solve my problems myself, because these are the very causes of my uh, problem. So I think I have spoken quite for some time now with regards to the commitment. I think commitment now, as I said,
You
my
can go
life.
ahead. Lopen,
Pardon?
go ahead. Take your time, no problem.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, as I said, this, with these two exercises, uh, I feel, I have come a long way. I have come a long way, and it has given me, now I can go back to my tradition and read the words, and I can see now everything very vividly, very clearly. And now, yeah, books that I did not really had a grasp before, I'm able to connect to it, and I'm able to see the meaning, and it gives me so much of enthusiasm and that interest to explore through the books also. Now I find every word that is there in the tradition very useful. Not only just Buddhism, you look at Sankhya, you look at Nyaya, you look at everything. I think it's just, if you really holistically, take a bird's eye view on the traditions, on the literature, that is there, huge corpus of teachings there, you are able to see that they are all talking about, understanding the self. And in Buddhism, we talk about, 84,000 doorways to, understanding the self. These are all methods, I suppose, 84,000 methods to understand this, understand the self. And out of these, all the 84,000, uh, um, pathways to understanding the self, I think I must admit that these two exercises have been very, clearly, systematically developed steps with which, you know, anybody can understand and connect to oneself, very easily. It's only that somebody needs to be willingly, open to listen and explore that element of, self decision, to pay attention to oneself is there. Once you have that, once you have made that decision to know oneself, then these 7 steps, this exercises 1 and 2, I think is alone enough. I mean, I should say, if we were, from my experience, having studied Buddhism for the last many years, I'm still a student exploring, struggling to see how, these teachings, lead to my transformation. It's not just information picking up from literature, from books here and there, but trying to convert all this information into, a knowledge system that has been experienced by our, by our great learned, individuals in the past, and who have passed down this beautiful tradition for posterity. We can see, there is huge, wisdom body there, and we just have to, connect ourselves to it. So these exercises have made my life really, really, um, simple, easy. And today, spending time with myself has been such a refreshing, relaxing experience. And I suppose, meditation, that conventional meditation, where people uh, dedicate themselves to, a time bound, in a definite posture, trying to, draw your attention inward, sitting in a lotus, cross-legged lotus posture. Um, even to do that also, I find, to be on my own, to be in the company of myself, I find it really very engaging and very, fruitful, and very pleasant experience. And even when we talk about this integrated meditation, where we are trying to be aware all the time, and when you are all by yourself, and then you are trying to be aware of yourself again, you I my personal experience is that, uh, you know I do not know how time passes by. So that those are some of the indications that, things have changed in my life, that my life has become so natural, so ordinary, in that sense, that now I really find space, condition, um, external factors, really, the impact, the influence is diminishing. And and I'm focusing on to my own self within. So wherever I am, if I am aware that the source of my happiness is within, that's it. So I'm beginning to really, uh, see myself on that platform, and being mindful, being aware of the self, is now becoming a daily, a natural phenomena in me. No matter what I am doing, no matter with whom I am, interfacing with, still, I am being able to be on my own. This, I feel, is a huge, uh, change in me, a shift, a paradigm shift, in fact, in my worldview, that I need to, take this decision to observe my feelings, my thoughts, and I'm able to do it most of the time. And the level of reactions that's happening in me is diminishing. And that, when we see, things happening naturally, that is what I consider, to be in a state of harmony, and and happiness, and our involvement, our engagement with the world outside, uh, you know, becomes very fruitful, very meaningful, mutually fulfilling. And then, I can also see, when there is this kind of shift in you, there is also a shift outside, uh, because, our behavior is just an expression of our, what is happening in our imagination. And especially when we have understood the importance of relationship, the role of understanding, and realization of coexistence, when these are becoming clear and clear, then our behavior with the world outside is guided by this, contemplation, understanding, and realization. Our behavior becomes down to earth, our behavior becomes amicable, and our behavior becomes mutually fulfilling. So I think, I have really, this um, 7 steps, though there in every tradition, has been brought out very intelligibly, because it is intelligible to each one of us. And no matter who you talk to, if the person is willing to listen, here it is. Here it is. And this is what, in Buddhism we called, um, uh, the pit instruction. Pit instruction, um, you know, uh, about understanding the mind. So in Buddhism, this 7 steps. We don't call it 7 steps, but being aware of our own self, observing our own self, trying to understand our own self is a very important exercise. And if we are able to go by the 7 steps, I think the literature that talks about understanding the mind uh, becomes very easy. So I think I'll stop. I have been talking for the last 40 minutes or so. So it's been a huge change in me, Guruji, thanks to you and the entire team, because through sharing also, I learn a lot, and it's very heartening to hear people transform, uh, you know, and there are many success stories being shared, and that itself, I feel so happy that everybody is being benefited from this morning sessions. It's a huge
You
success
are,
for each one of us, and we must
you are
congratulate.
sharing your commitment. You are sharing your commitment also. So
Yeah. So my commitment now would be that well, I suppose it's very natural that once you see your your well-being, once you see the path of your well-being, once you see what really makes you happy, uh, you know you can't help sharing with others. You can't help making others understand that one. So my commitment would be that I will be um, what should I say now, ambassador of UHB in Bhutan. You can even say that. Uh, of course, I'm whenever I'm teaching Buddhism, whenever I lecture Buddhism, I always talk Buddhism through UHB, because what UHB talks is ultimately what Buddhism is also talking about. The only thing is, people have to be little, should have that bird's eye view, holistic, look at the larger canvas and try to understand, holistically. If that level of openness is there, then you will see that this the connection. So I'm using UHB to explain, talk about Buddhism in a very intelligible way. And this UHB has given me so much of handle to hold on and explain it very clearly. So that would be one. And then my personal practice. So this journey is on, and I'm all the time trying to observe myself, and the frequency of being mindful and being aware is improving each day. So the journey, the process has taken place, and now once this journey or the process takes place, there is no way that we can stop. It will only multiply. It will only improve the frequency and the quality of our observation. So I will commit myself to lifelong um, practice of UHB, and I'm glad that I have come in contact with UHB since 2012, and I have benefited hugely, tremendously, and it has helped me understand Buddhism better. It has helped me understand the world outside better, and it has helped me establish myself also relatively, become a better person compared to who I have been in the past. So, I will keep sharing this knowledge, this tradition, this understanding with the rest of the world, because this helping somebody understand is the biggest gift that we can, because it's only if the other person understands the benefit is there. So I will keep myself committed to this process, and we will. I will see what I can do to make UHB, available to every Bhutanese in Bhutan. So I think that's it. Thank you once again, Ganeshji, and the entire team. And I also must mention Kumar Sambhavji and Dr. Sharmila ji and Rajul ji, and also the other people who have been sharing in the morning and giving us useful information, knowledge. I remain indebted to all of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Lopen. Yeah, great commitment. In fact, I can just place this, that when it comes to Bhutan, there have been few people who have been very kind of committed to take USB to Bhutan. The first person who felt that this is making sense and it can be part of academics was and is Dasho Pema Thinle, who is also a regular kind of participant of this session. In 2012, he felt that this is something which is very desirable, and particularly it can be part of the academics. He was then the vice chancellor of the only university of Royal Institute of Bhutan. So he introduced it to the university, and in a very democratic manner. So he gave exposure to the people about this, particularly the wardens and the deans. And then there is Dr. Jamba, who was then the director of Gedu College of Business Studies. He he went through it and he felt that, yes, this is something which has to go to every teacher and every student. So he is the one who really gave a major, thrust to it, to make it a part of the academics in his own institution and all other institutions of the country. And then the role of Lungtaen has been very significant in the sense that he kind of made it accepted not only in the academics, but also all around in different institutions of Bhutan, because as I said, he is a Buddhist monk and a very well-known scholar in Buddhism, not only in Bhutan, but all over the world. So his kind of appreciation of this made a lot of difference. So he has been conducting workshops for people of all kind of range. He conducted a workshop for the monks, conducted a workshop for the this all the civil servants of Bhutan, and also he conducted a workshop for all the members, parliament members. So whole range of it, he has been doing, and he has been quite committed. So his commitment that he will take it to every person in Bhutan is a very valuable commitment for us. So that is very nice, very welcome. Of course, there have been some more people like Amdorji, who has been the director of YTF, and it's been very